Hello and welcome. Today we've got David Mahoney, and today we are going to be discussing how Biden calls in the military, adult sudden death syndrome, and also the mysterious missing birth certificates of the children. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and David can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. David, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to?
Nick, it's good to see you again, buddy. What haven't I been up to is a question with me usually. I've been traveling a lot, Nick, since I saw you. I've been in about 4 or 5 different countries, but I'm healthy and well. You know what? I seem to have learned to just get 3-4 hours sleep a night now. I don't seem to sleep more than that. A few things I've picked up along the way I'd like to share with the audience was UK's all wide open now. So I was in Glastonbury 2 weeks ago. So if anybody is looking for a Harry Potter or a wizard hat, I can recommend a lot of shops in Glastonbury. They can certainly get whatever they need there because there's a really interesting collection of characters in that town, I can tell you. There's one bloke walking up the street with a full-on wizard hat on and no shoes on, just like it's totally normal. And then last weekend I was in Belgium and Holland. I flew through Brussels and then took the train across the border. No masks on any of the airlines, apart from the Spanish ones. The Spanish seem to be holding on to their mask restrictions quite strictly. As I was walking through the airport in Brussels, Nick, I could hear the Iberia flight and they were saying, you must put a mask on if you want to go on this flight. So it's interesting because I was on Brussels Air, I was on a couple of airline companies from the UK. Who else was I on? Transavia, KLM. They've all dropped the mask restrictions on the flights now, but for some reason, the Spanish, they just keep holding on to it. They won't relinquish that. But the good news is at the airports now, when I flew back, there were no silly people dressed in white suits demanding to see your passport certificate or any health certificates. USA has now dropped their PCR requirements for entering the USA, even for non-US residents, which is good news for tourism. A lot of people been asking me, can I help them with that, Nick, over the last few months to get to the States for various events. So that's good news.
So that means that when you're going over to the States, that we will be going together, David?
No, I'm banned. They won't let me in unless I get an official government pardon. We got to wait for that payasa, that clown, to come out of the White House before I can get back in. I've got a ban, Nick.
Why are you banned?
I've told you about 10 times. That's how many interviews you do. I got banned because I'm a threat to the security of the United States. In 2014, they put me in jail for 5 weeks while they were trying to charge me with terrorism, and they couldn't pin anything on me. I mean, they consider this, what we talk about, the government like this, and the information, the intel we share, they consider this a new form of terrorism. So not so much you, but some of the extreme stuff I do. I mean, I really get in the geopolitical stuff. I was digging around, as you know, inside the Hillary Clinton story about the invasion of Libya. And they put me in jail for that because they said I was a member of a terrorist group that was anti-American. So they escorted me on a flight and put me back in the UK. So, yeah,
I think David,
a threat to the security.
I think you're a threat. They ban you because, you're anti-communism.
Well, they're right, Nick. I am a threat to the security of the United States, to be honest, because the amount of digging around I come up with. I mean, tonight, I've got 2 really good stories I want to continue on. We'll talk about the Biden incident, why he's called in the military. Now, officially, the National Guard have been put on active duty again, Nick. Now, we know this because I've had several people that have said, hey, look, my brother's just been activated, and they've been sending me photographs of their family members rolling down the street in Hummers, in military, full call-out Hummers. So the National Guard's been called out, activated all over the USA. Why? What's going on? There is no midterm problems. We've got those elections are coming up now, but that's not why. And Biden called in the military to assist his administration because he's very concerned about rolling blackouts, and food shortages. So they've been pumping this narrative now for several months. 6 months ago, I didn't really believe it until I saw all the evidence of them deliberately setting fire to food production plants, mostly meat, sausage, bacon, beef. But they have been doing other ones as well, like cereal production. Then there's this baby food issue that's going on as well. Have you been tracking that? Where the baby formula? Mm-hmm. So there's a shortage of baby food now, and fantastically well-timed, Bill Gates has come up with an artificial baby food formula. I mean, who's going to trust that idiot to put food in the stomach of a newborn innocent child? I wouldn't. No way. Because you know it's going to be something wrong in there.
Absolutely. So Tommy.
No, go on. You can jump in there. Go on.
So we've always said that the Biden that we see today is not really the Biden that we saw before. We can tell from his earlobe is detached from his, the old Biden, his ear was detached from his face, but this one, his earlobe is attached to his face. And he looks like a silly old man, whereas the other Biden looks like a very evil man. So you're saying that because he calls in the military, what are you implying? Do you think he might be working for the White Hats?
You know what, Nick? I'm beginning to kind of like Biden because here's what he's done now. He's called in the military to help with rolling blackouts, to help with food shortages, to distribute the national reserves they've got. He's talking about baby formula going bad. Now, look, it doesn't get much worse as a president and also the vice president. If you hear Kamala's rambling, just nonsensical speeches, it's like she takes a load of words, throws them into a hat, pulls them out and say, whatever I pulled out here, that's my speech. So if you think about it this way, I've gotten to thinking, like, is he really working for the White Hats? And he's gone in to be the president to say, look, we're going to cheat our way in. We're going to give you the dumbest idiot you've ever seen in your life. We're going to back it up with a vice president who can't string a sentence together either. And we're going to continue pushing, introducing draconian restrictions and laws. We're going to kill a load of people with the you-know-what. And then we're going to introduce something else called monkeypox and start pushing that. I mean, it seems to me it's quite a good plan for people to just say, holy cow, this is ridiculous. Our country, the greatest country in the world, is now being led by someone that couldn't get a job in Walmart collecting supermarket trolleys. And it would be a good plan. If we have to go through what we've been through and endure the hardships that we've all gone through during the last 2 years of this pandemic, then it would certainly make sense that he's been put in place deliberately.
I mean, it makes sense to a certain degree with what you're trying to say. I can understand. But what I don't understand is if the White Hats are that much in control, why are there things happening like the shooting?
Yeah, well, one other point, I'm going to get into that, Nick, because you said something that's interesting. You said the old Biden looks like a scary character and the new Biden just looks like a confused old man. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I know Biden's career because years ago when I lived in Florida, he was always pushing his anti-drugs. And, if you get caught with this, you're going to go to jail. If you look at video footage of the old Biden, he had a nasty little snarl about him. His eyes were vicious and nasty. And now this Biden, he just looks like a confused old man. I mean, he doesn't come across as having anything malevolent about him, as anything nasty or anything evil. He looks like, and he's a bit creepy, okay, the sniffing the hair and stuff. But if you didn't know that, he's happy eating an ice cream. He's just like a typical old granddad. But the other Biden that we saw years ago in the old video footage, the way he used to address his words and put certain twists on them, he was a nasty old bastard. And you're right. And you're right about the ears. I've studied all those videos. But I want to let the viewers know. Go and have a look at Biden before 2015. Look at Biden now. And just see the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Look at his eyes, look at his ears, and make sure that when you find him with his ears, that you look at him face on, look at the earlobes very well,
and then look at the Biden today very well and get the pictures together and compare them. The old Biden looks more masculine. He looks very evil. Whereas this Biden, like you said, we're very silly and confused and like an old, happy eating ice cream granddad.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. There's something going on here. I don't know if he's a clone or a lookalike, or I don't know. I have no idea.
I think it's a guy in a mask, to be honest, Nick. I've seen some very, very clever prosthetists working in the film business and how a mask can be so convincing. They're a good makeup artist, which they have the technology for. I've seen severed heads, like actors get their heads cloned. What you do is sit in a mask and then they make it, and then it's for a scene in like a Viking film where your head is severed. And I've seen how they do it. I could make a wound out of tissue paper, fake blood, and silicone. That would freak people out. If you pulled your sleeve up and showed it to them, it looks so realistic. And I've got video of me with several of those wounds over the films I've done. But it's only a theory. I don't want the audience out there to think, oh, Mahoney's talking that Biden is a white hat. I'm just saying, if you take the evidence and show like how ridiculous he is, and still people think he's in control and he's got hold of all the nuke codes, they call it the football, then it's impossible to come up with everything else. Like Sherlock Holmes used to say, when you eliminate all the possibilities, the impossible becomes possible. And that's it. That's where we're at now, because I tell you what, he really is making the left-wing idiots, these left-wing lunatics, cancel culture, transgender agenda, rainbow flag waving morons. It doesn't get any worse. What else are they going to come up with that we're expected to just swallow down as they spoon feed us yet more absolutely utter ridiculously wrong political opinions and views?
Absolutely. Now let's go over to the shooting. Now you say that there's missing birth certificates from the children's, from their schools or something like that. What's going on? And like, I want to go back to the Biden thing as well and say, if there is a white hat operation, then why are there people still at risk?
Well, all right, we'll finish the Biden thing. You see that there's something else going on now, Nick, inside the halls of power. And I'm not talking the Biden administration. I'm talking about the real president. All Trump's generals now, they're all starting to have a little bit of a squabble, because a lot of them are saying, listen, we've been waiting at the starting line of this race now for many years, at least 2 years, because that's how long, Monkey Boy's been in there. So now what they're saying is, we've got the green light, we've got the special forces, we've got the evidence. And like Robert David Steele said, we've got it all. What are we waiting for? Instead, they're picking up one guy here, one guy there. They're picking up Biden's aide and Barack Obama's election campaign manager and something to do with Hillary Clinton's, inside informant. They're picking up a couple of people here and a couple of people there and charging them with treason and sedition. But what they should be doing is going for these mass arrests. So inside the camp of the Trump, the real president, some of these generals are now saying, I'm tired of waiting. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I mean, that's what they've been trained to do. These generals are like that. And what Trump is doing is he's still waiting it out. He's still trying to say, okay, well, what are we doing next? Where are we going next? He's waiting for some reason, and we don't know what. So interesting, because they're all ready to go, the generals. But for the whispers that are coming to us through our intel and sources channels are telling us that there is a little bit of unrest. They're not falling out. They're just saying, for God's sake, this is what we're trained to do. What are we still waiting for? Let's go. So I hope there's going to be something cooking. And actually the next 4 or 5 days, they're saying around the 15th and 16th of June, there is a significant event coming. And have you seen what's going on in the crypto and Wall Street, Nick?
Everything has gone down. Yeah, absolutely.
It's taking a big dive. I mean, big dive. I mean, some of these, like Ethereum, all of these crypto coins are dipping below where they're just going to end up, being worthless. So it's really looking like that. So if you've got any crypto, I don't know. I'm not going to sell mine because I don't have a hell of a lot. It's not worth me panicking. But for a lot of people out there, Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies are really taking a nosedive, and I hope you know what you're doing, guys. So again, if you've been in this market in the crypto industry, look what's happening on Wall Street, and it's major points, like 17, 18 points, things are dropping. Absolutely. Now, you want to add anything to that?
No. I want to go over onto the shooting, and
I'm teasing you, mate. So I've been watching this story very well, Nick, because one of the things that I'm very passionate about is false flags. Now, I've tracked a lot of them over the years because I've been doing this for many years, right back to the Pan Am explosion over Lockerbie. I think that was a false flag. I think that was blown up by the CIA to try and get everybody to turn against Gaddafi. So there's always a reason why they do these things. Now, we know about this Texas shooting in this school, but it keeps getting more and more interesting. There's more and more turns coming up. So the latest one is good old independent researchers have now started sniffing around and says, hold on a second, the names of the children that they announced were killed, we can't find anywhere in the birth certificate records. Okay. Now, they've found a couple of them, which were infant deaths. Now, infant death name stealing is a very, very old espionage trick. What you do is you take the name and the social security number of a deceased person, and you become that person. So you're saying John Smith died in, let's say, 1997. You go and get their social security number, and you assume their identity. Because here's the bizarre thing. They ask you to prove your identity by using a utility bill, but you can get an account with an electrical or a water or something without using ID in a lot of places. So you go to the electricity company, say, I've just moved in, can you get me hooked up? They're only too happy to. What's your name? This is my name. This is my social security number. They'll get you rigged up, and then you get a bill. And with that bill, you can then start building your bank accounts and everything else because people accept it as ID. It's a very old spy trick, this, Nick. A lot of people, we all used to use this shit when we wanted to get established somewhere. We were taught this. So a lot of these children don't have birth certificates. Two of them had death certificates, but some of them were also recorded as having a slightly different spelling, but it wasn't the same kid. It was a different year, which is very strange considering that they were going to school there because they would have to be in the system.
So tell me this.
I'll tell you.
How can we prove if they don't have birth certificates? How can we prove there were even any children who died?
Well, this is the point. Now, there are a couple of logical explanations. A lot of these children were called Gomez and Rodriguez and Sanchez and Ramirez. They all had Latin names, originally Spanish names. So some of them could have been born across the border because it is a border town. There is a lot of cross-pollinization, as they say, between Mexicans and the USA living on this area. Mexican woman would marry an American man of Latin American descent. And it is possible that some of the children would have been born in Mexico or Guatemala or Honduras or somewhere, but not all of them. They would be in the system somewhere. So this is very suspicious. Now, there's also been a very reliable report saying, hang on a second, I thought that school was closed. And there's been a few people in the community who said that school's been closed for a while. Why was it even open? And now it wasn't officially open, but it was that day. Were they using it for some, I don't know, special needs kids? Were they using it for kids that have fallen behind? Were they using it for super bright kids? Were they using it for children that only speak Spanish? There shouldn't have been kids in there in the first place, Nick, because according to the records, which they've been trying to get rid of and not make public, but the great thing about people like us is we're like ferrets. We're like raccoons. We get in everywhere and we find it. So if they're trying to erase something, exactly like those specialized scientific research facilities in the Ukraine, they were trying to erase the information about it. But now, 3 months later, they've said, actually, yes, we had over 40 of them. But we're not going to go down that street. We've done that street. We're going to stay on this. So independent researchers, Nick, have turned up all this information about this school, about the kids, about the parents, about the police blocking everybody else, about the crisis actors that have been filmed not only in this location, but also there's one crisis actor there that was filmed in it. She was in the UK for one of these bombings, I think it was at the Birmingham one where there was an arena bombed in Birmingham. She was there on the phone crying her eyes out. It's the same woman. So we can see, we can track, we can show, and you can show the audience that as well. There's plenty on the Telegram groups if you go around. And again, it's all down to the policy of trying to convince the public that guns are bad.
Of course,
guns kill people.
Is this a white hat staged operation, or is there
No.
deep state infiltration here? What's going on here?
It's a desperate act from the deep state to try and get final control of the gun laws in the USA, because it's the only thing that's stopping America becoming like China. They really want it to be Chinese. They want to control everybody. You can't invade America with that many guns. But here's the thing, Nick. What do you call someone that starts a fire? He's an arsonist, yeah? So when there's a fire, you blame the fire. When there's a knife crime, somebody gets stabbed, who gets blamed? It's the guy that's got the knife. So he stabbed somebody. It was his fault. When the man that sets a forest fire, he's an arsonist. He did it. But as soon as you put a gun in somebody's hand, it wasn't the man that did it. They blame the gun. It's always about guns, 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 guns. They don't say, oh, the guy was crazy. Unfortunately, he got hold of a gun. What they do is they say, no, guns shouldn't be allowed, shouldn't be allowed. You know, they always blame the gun. They never blame the shooter. And mysteriously, in these cases, always the shooter gets killed, doesn't he? He never gets out to tell his side of the story. He never says, well, you know what? They radicalized me. I was a pizza salesman in Des Moines, Iowa, or Des Moines, and then they approached me and said, you know, my parents don't love me and I could be very cool. And then they started giving me money. No, they never have enough time to tell their story because mysteriously they're always killed in the event, which considering how trained the police are, they could certainly shoot them in the legs, shoot them in the shoulder and take out the threat. But no, they always get killed. So there's no witness to tell what happened, what made him flip, why did he go in that school. But as I've said before, even 2 weeks ago, this whole story about this school, it's got so many holes in now. It's probably nothing that they're telling us is true. I think it was a setup from the start. I think there were some real children in there, but the ones that are being killed are just made up. They brought crisis actors in to talk about it, saying my daughter, my son, this and that. None of the names are in the birth registry inside the state or anywhere in the States. Nothing that ties up. The shooter was an 18-year-old broke kid living with his grandma that had no job, was in hypnotherapy already, but he had $10,000 worth of military equipment and he drove there in a really nice truck and he was killed afterwards on the scene. Who believes this shit anymore? If you've got any brains, you can see straight through it, bud.
So what, do you think it's just a fear porn?
Fear porn, and it's trying to pry the guns out of your hand. You know, at the time they wrote this Second Amendment, I hope I haven't got that wrong now. Yeah, Second Amendment. They knew that the only time people would want to do it is the times that you actually need it. It's quite funny. They're trying to take it off you because they know you need it, because you need it to defend yourself. The States has got.
They want to fund propaganda and fake news so they can, build and reasons and excuse why. They have to do certain things to support their agenda, like what you said, and obviously what they did with Christchurch shooting, I think in New Zealand or Australia. I can't remember which one. Yeah,
Christchurch, when he shot up the mosque, it was a very similar setup. Did you see it? Drove there, Absolutely. Had a webcam on. It was a copycat. They say that. Was it a copycat? But again, if you look at the video footage of how those bodies were moving when they were putting... I know what those close-range bullets do when they come out of that weapon, Nick. It'll tear the whole side of your face off. If you're shooting at one of those bullets are not designed to just go straight through you. They're designed to open as they go through tissue and they tear through tissue and bone. So when you're shooting those bodies like that, just jumping, no. There would be blood spatter patterns all over the place, and I don't believe that for a fact either. And I think most of these ones are... But unfortunately, innocent people do die. I'm not saying that people didn't die. I'm saying that it isn't what they said it is, and it was a setup, and they designed it that way for people to die so they can manipulate the public into doing what they want, which is, you know what? I have gun shame is what they want to do. They want to turn Americans into gun shamers.
But they also want to point the finger at Trump at the time and say, look, he's a bad president. He's a dangerous president. He wants everyone, he supports guns. And this is what happened over here in Christchurch. But so they wanted to make Trump look bad. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Orange Man, very bad. But turns out Orange Man was very good. The amount of work and industry he re-fired back up when he was in power. I still think he'll come back, Nick. I don't know if it's going to be next week, next month, or next year, but there's no way we've seen the last of him. And I actually still think he's in control. Because I think Obama's still pulling the strings on what he thinks is his third term. But I think that Trump and all these guys are so far ahead of them, they've actually manipulated things to push them down the street that they want to go. They bait them with bait, and they manipulate the situation so they know where they're going to go. They make them look absolutely stupid and uncomprehendable in front of the world during the camera. He never does any press conferences at the White House anyway. This time of year, Trump was always outside in the Rose Garden, wasn't he? Doing interviews. Here we are at the White House. You'd have a nice wide shot of the White House. You'd see him landing on the lawn of the White House. But you don't see any of that with this other guy in there because he's not there. I think DC is more or less a ghost town. They've relocated the Federal Reserve. They've relocated the FBI building, the IRS building. These have all been relocated outside of DC now. They've been there forever, and they're just going to all of a sudden just relocate them? Everything's boarded up and barricaded and fenced around everything?
Absolutely.
It's very obvious. And then the other thing I've been tracking is this. You see, the press now are so deep within the establishment of the black hats. They've taken that much money and that much bribery for what they've done to the public over the last 2 years. There's no way out for them. They can't say, oh, by the way, I'm really sorry, we lied about everything. They're just the puppets of George Soros and all of his clowns, coming out of Switzerland and the Davos meetings. Because now what they're trying to make us believe is all of a sudden, after, let's say, 150 years, let's say 100 years of modern medicine, yeah? After World War I, we started to get antibiotics. We had penicillin that cures many diseases. And really, it's 100 years of modern medicine, of heart transplants, lung transplants. You can take the eyes from a road accident victim now and transplant them so people can see again. Modern medicine is fantastic. Yet all of a sudden, Nick, in the last 5 or 6 months, there's been a new affliction that struck all of society we need to be very concerned about. And I'm not talking about monkeypox. I'm talking about adult sudden death syndrome. Strange that, isn't it? We've never had it before, and now people are saying, "Oh, poor guy, yeah, he was 42, but he just dropped down dead because he's got adult sudden death syndrome."
Is that a new category that they're making now? A new category?
Well, yeah, and you know why? I mean, we can't talk about it on here because hopefully you'll get this on YouTube. Where you getting nervous then?
I do.
Mahoney's going to blow it. We can't talk about that. But it certainly ties into where the child, they call it infant sudden death syndrome, because there's one common denominator here and why infants are dying. They used to call it cot death. Oh, your baby has to sleep on its back. Your baby has to lie on its side. You got to have it propped up a bit. You got to turn it. They had all these different things. Cot death is what it used to be. And you know what? It was terrifying. I'm a parent. And everybody that I know that's a parent used to spend hours just standing over the cot in the first few months, Nick, because you're terrified of it just striking your child.
Well,
but now they've...
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I'm not surprised that they've come out with this new category because they're trying to cover up what they've caused before. But I really do think that sooner or later, we're going to be seeing a lot of deep state sudden deaths.
Yeah, because these guys also managed to take the same medical treatment as a lot of these people. Because I think a lot of them actually believed it themselves, saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to go and do that. But that's the link. When these infants have one of these medical procedures, it kills a lot of them. And this is fact. We know this now. But also these adults that have been dropping down dead from myocarditis and various other bits and pieces and blood clots, what's the common denominator? what has happened to them in the last 6 to 12 months that hasn't happened to them in the last 30 to 40 years? What new thing have they done?
Yeah.
And we know what it is.
Absolutely. But we won't say it on here, but it's, we can say the Jabadoos, everybody knows that, but it's exactly that. They try to cover it up, but I believe one day, hopefully soon, the truth will come out. Let's see. Hopefully. I pray to God that it will.
Nick, I think you're right. We're doing a good job of getting it out there. Your channel, my channel, Charlie's channel, they're all very, very good. I'm going to let you go now because I know you now. You've got another interview set up. You've got about 5 minutes in between. But that's the stories I've been tracking this week, folks. Why is Biden called in the military? The school shooting, the real truth will continue to unfold. And this adult sudden death syndrome, if you believe this, then you're a bigger fool than you take yourself for. You need to give yourself a pat on the back because you're an amazingly stupid person.
Absolutely. Well, David, you've done a great job explaining all of that. Thank you so, so much for giving us that update. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
The same as, guys, you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your research. You've got to do it so you can clear the fog from your eyes and see through the mist because they want you to be stupid. They want you to stay home. They want you to stay stupid. But no, do your own research. Make an intelligent, informed decision about the topics that you find passionate, that you feel that you need to know about. And keep watching the truth talkers out there because we're doing a very long, hard hours to get the truth out to you in all these interviews. Especially you, Nick. You're one of my favorites, buddy. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to my channel, you can see the details there. I do a live show every Tuesday and Friday. And I continue my travels around Europe every weekend, filming behind the scenes. I'll give you more travel tips. And it's all on my channel there, mahoneylive.com. Nick, you're a gentleman, mate.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say to the viewers that we are still launched. We have now launched the We the People silver coin, which supports the channel so that we can continue to provide you great, unlimited, free interviews with all your favorite guests and research. So I will leave the link below. And thank you, David. And we'll speak again very soon. God bless you.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
I didn't know about the coin. I'm going to check it out. Thanks, mate. See you, everybody. Stay fit, stay strong. Keep pushing through. You can't just keep pushing them back. You got to push them through to break up the ranks. I figured out I was saying it wrong.
Okay. Take care, David.
All right, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Bye-bye, guys.